Alright, what's up? How's it going? Theory and theology. There was a topic I came across last night. Let me see. It was about breathwork, but it was kind of based on this kind of esoteric Jewish theory surrounding it. I'm trying to find the video. That's not the right button. I need to go to my history. Alright, it's kind of what I fell asleep to last night, and then it was saved in one of my playlists of things to watch, and then it kind of blended into like a Luke Belmar video on by Simon Squibb, and that kind of woke me up. I guess that transitioned into a new video, just a new style of it with the different talking and everything. But okay, the video is called Jewish Breathwork Series Neshima. So it seems kind of about, I don't know if Neshama is soul or spirit, and Neshima is like grief or mourning. Am I wrong? The guy who makes these videos, his name is Eliyahu Pereira. Eliyahupereira. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Not all the details because I was somewhat sleeping too, or dozing into sleep. But I think I would maybe recommend this video just for the interest in it, due to coming out of psychology, the field of psychology, and how breathwork is a pretty major topic in the field of psychology, taken from more like Eastern thought, but I mean, yeah, so I just found it interesting. And then I also kind of just wanted to talk about censorship, especially as it pertains to anti-Semitism. I was wanting to talk about censorship. Now, I know I'm not going to be very popular with this topic, but just kind of the controversy around it, because, myself being female and black and having all sorts of minority status, labels and categories that I belong to, or that other people would assume I belong to without talking to me, based on stereotypes and things. People might just assume certain things. Like, people assume certain things about my education a lot, like that I don't have one, or that I don't have a master's or anything like that. People assume that I live in like poorer areas, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to have like a university education or needs to live in like an area that's not kind of like a lower income area, but I don't fit into either of those categories, and a lot of times just racially, when people meet me, they kind of like assume, things, just, things like that, and, whatever, it is what it is, but I kind of want to talk about censorship because it's something that's hitting me lately. I'm actually getting almost scared for this podcast. I've had a lot going on since the last post, which was August 27th, not a lot of bad going on, just a lot of changes going on with like YouTube. YouTube is just becoming a pain. They're too controlling, in my opinion. But I'll get back to that. So let me talk about the breathwork stuff. So I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the video because as interesting as I found it to be, I was dozing off in it, and it was 28 minutes, and I was pretty surprised. I was like, wow, this is like, it felt pretty long. And when he gets into the reading of this book, he's kind of reading it in Hebrew and then translating it in English, which I did not expect. Now this book, I don't think it's not any kind of text, like traditional Jewish text. It says it's by Rav Israel something, I don't know. I can't read the description near the thumbnail because it's kind of long. But you can go to this guy's YouTube channel and check out his content. Now, I'm not vouching for people. I don't know this guy. I think from the first interview I saw him in, it seems like I don't know if he's a convert, if he converted, but he's from Florida. I think he lives in Israel now. Or at least the video I saw him initially in with, there's like this travel vlogger who's Jewish, but has very dark skin. He's got kind of more of an Arab look to him, but he's a Jewish guy and kind of interviews people of different faiths and different beliefs in Israel. And so that's how I came across this guy. Him and another guy were in an interview. And I can't remember what it was talking about, but both of those guys were from Florida. And Eliyahu Pereira was kind of talking about, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember the point of the main topic of that video, but it was kind of some esoteric topics. I think it was kind of about like Jewish mysticism, or I really don't recall. But yeah, there were just those three guys talking, and then that's how I came across his info, and it says, "Welcome to Sha'ar HaYichud's latest series." So they're deep diving into, it's called the transformative teachings of Neshama and Neshima. And so when I saw the title, I thought it was very interesting because I'm really into breathwork. I guess the main thing that I caught on to was how they said, breath, has a lot of relation, obviously, to oxygen, and kind of like the deeper breathing, kind of cycling out the old, and if you don't do deep breathing or any kind of breath work, and if your breathing's always shallow, because most of our breathing is pretty shallow, and I believe you can train yourself to kind of have deeper breathing more unconsciously, but a lot of times I think people have to make a conscious effort, because as we're going about our days, a lot of times our breathing is going to be pretty shallow. It changes with stress levels. It changes with any kind of stress. Not even like, oh, my boss is yelling at me stress, but like stress like if you didn't sleep well, if you're tired, if you're hungry. I mean, definitely if you're like in motion and Yeah, if you're thirsty, if you're just actually stressed, like emotionally, not like a physical stress, but an emotional stress. And basically, it comes back to this topic about blood. And that's been an interesting topic for me for a while now. The topic about blood. Because I think I was reading somewhere about it, how there's kind of like this in Leviticus talking about, not eating the blood, and then, or the life is in the blood or something. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but, and I saw something in the Tanya about blood, and it was kind of talking about these different personality types, if you will. Like, that's not what it said, but that was kind of my understanding of it or interpretation of it, just in general, was personality. And the more I get blood work and stuff, like with doctor's appointments, I kind of realize things about blood, iron levels, hemoglobin, hypertension. I'm not saying I have hypertension, but I think at one point I might have, or at least maybe I was drinking too much caffeine at one point a few years back. So that diabetes, that's like the blood sugar. So when you think about blood, I mean those are like some major things that pop up where it's like blood sugar levels, just like tension levels, hypertension, and like your heart. And also just like with iron levels, just your energy. If your iron's too low, you're gonna fatigue easily. With diabetes or even with low iron, your sleep might not be very restful. It might have some relation to insomnia, either not falling asleep on time or waking up too early or waking up often during the night and just not feeling rested in general. Brain fog, that's a big one that I experience. And so it was talking about, your breathing and how it provides oxygen to your heart, to your brain. And if you're not recycling out that, older, I guess, air, if you will, by breathing deeply, it's kind of getting potentially trapped in almost like stagnant, kind of like, it almost reminds me of like stagnant water. Like if you learn like outdoor skills and stuff, people always say like, don't drink stagnant water. It's not moving, so it might not be as healthy. Things kind of like start to fester and develop and grow in stagnant water. Now, I've never heard that about breathing, like about that, you know, about that with breathing as far as like stagnant, things being stagnant. But, yeah, I really don't know. But that's kind of what I kind of think he was getting at. It seemed like a similar idea where it's like if you're not breathing in deeply enough and breathing out and practicing breath work, skills, then you might have some issues with other things like your heart, your brain, other energy and focus related issues. Now, none of this is medical advice, none of this is psychiatric advice. It's just kind of the direction where it seemed like they were going in. And I don't think he's done. It's a 28-minute video. I don't think he's done. I think there's more to it because I think he's going to do a series reading through this book. It seemed like a small book. But he is translating from Hebrew to English, and so I don't know. That might make it take longer, but some very interesting concepts to kind of work with. I don't know if anyone practices breathwork, or if you have, if you haven't. I know some people who are raised like in the Christian faith definitely have an aversion toward any Eastern type of things like meditation, yoga, things like that. Breathwork might fall into that category because that's where I kind of learned about it through psychology, meditation, breathwork, yoga. But in psychology, it's not as part of a religious practice or a spiritual practice. It's more of like a health practice. But are they so different? You know, are they so different? I guess the intention could be different, but yeah, I remember when I was younger, when we were learning about running, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, because you get more oxygen in through your nose. At least that's what we were taught. And then, I mean, if you exercise, you're definitely going to be breathing more deeply. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people, at least in the US, kind of skip is exercise. That's something that a lot of people don't get enough of. That there's definitely issues with obesity rates. I've heard that for the UK as well, but I don't really know. Because I saw like a bit of a documentary about obesity, but it was interesting because it wasn't in the US, it was actually in the UK. So, just Western in general, we have a terrible fast food culture, a terrible boxed, canned. I mean, canned goods aren't necessarily always like a bad thing. Like you can have organic stuff that's canned or boxed, but then we also have all these fast foods and all this instant stuff that's just really no good. Just really no good for us. But we kind of do get stuck with these lifestyles where we're like, I'm gonna, sacrifice, you know, time, energy, health decisions for work, money, or entertainment, and instead of getting exercise or cooking food or shopping and purchasing healthy, fresh vegetables and fruits and grains and nuts and things, and cooking foods or eating more raw foods, and then in addition to spending, it's definitely an expense. But it's going to be an expense on any end. But yeah, buying all the unhealthy foods, that's not really a good idea to buy unhealthy stuff. But it's so easy to do. Either ordering it by phone and then spending the 20-30 minutes that it takes while the food's going to get delivered to continue working on stuff or relaxing. It's usually one or the other, right? Working on something important, buying a little bit of time there, or relaxing, again, buying a little bit of time or recovering energy from not having to cook or go shopping and then bring it home and cook. Or even just stopping by some drive-through. I've been there. I still do it. I'm trying to make slightly better decisions, like go into Japanese markets and get a bento box or something, and then come home and heat it up. It's like it doesn't take that much more extra time. It's probably about the same time as a drive-through, and it's healthier. It's usually going to be like rice with meat and vegetables, some sauces and flavorings and things. or some kind of like udon or soba or noodle type dish or sushi or something like that. So, I mean, that's healthier than McDonald's or Jack in the Box or whatever. So, and they do like make it and cook it in the store and then have it available in the container. You just take it and heat it up. You can either heat it in the store or heat it at home or at work or wherever you take it to. So places like that, it's a little better quality, but it's still not the perfect decision. But it's basically a home cooked meal that didn't get cooked at home. And then people can feel however they feel about microwaves, all these different types of waves, from like Wi-Fi and 5G and all kinds of towers and different things. Like, I don't even know. There's too much to go into with all those things, but I definitely think those topics are for this podcast because I think people on here kind of have an interest in those things. Now, all right, I might cut this topic and then add the topic about the anti-Semitism and censorship right after this. I'll post these both same day. So that maybe the ideas are a little more divided. But yeah, at the moment, that was a very helpful topic to think about as far as breathing. It's something that is easy to kind of avoid thinking about. And for a lot of people, it can be hard to do. It can kind of bring up a lot of like emotions, and this is what I found for myself, and I'm not like 100% able to like predict this every time, but I would say for myself, one thing that I notice is for anything that's like a slightly challenging task that I know is good for my health, but is kind of like I'd maybe rather rest or take a shortcut or make a less healthy decision, because it seems like somehow there's more comfort in either lounging around, laying around watching YouTube, or I don't have Netflix anymore, but say Netflix or TV. I don't really watch TV, but say I was going to watch TV or sports or play video games. These are kind of common things that people might substitute for exercise or cooking healthy or preparing healthy foods for later dates or making healthy decisions, even like sitting and doing breath work or meditation or prayer, or all of them, all of those things. I've noticed, at least for myself, there's always like, I'd rather not do it because, there's maybe like a part of me that feels either too tired to do it or too tired or exhausted to deal with what might come up while I'm doing it, or knowing that there's going to be some discomfort. But I know for myself, most of the time the discomfort is the initial start. So if it's anything like stretching or exercise, like lifting, getting on an elliptical, taking a walk, doing some calisthenics, even anything like playing music or playing guitar, there is this kind of, or doing breath work, prayer, there is this kind of like part where it's really hard to explain. I'm going to try to explain this, but it's really hard to explain. For myself, my mind kind of shifts from the thinking of like, this is going to be difficult, or why it might be negative, why I would rather do some other thing, like order a burger for like $28 off like Uber Eats, or would rather rest or nap or go on Instagram and just scroll around or whatever. Now, those things all appear to have a dopamine release related to them. But all those other things I mentioned also have a dopamine release related to them, I believe. It's just there's something different about that mindset with those. Maybe they feel like a chore. Maybe we're taught like, oh, you have to practice your music, so, you know, having that discipline of like practice, even if it's a religious or spiritual practice or musical practice or physical health practice or like dietary practice, or maybe it's all lumped into one. Maybe all of it is your spiritual practice. I don't know, it just depends how you label things, but grouping it all into one thing, you know, even if they are hobbies that are enjoyable, I notice for myself maybe the attachment, the label that I've attached to them being like maybe it's a label where I say, oh, this is like a chore. This is like, it's going to be uncomfortable because I'm going to have to sit in my mind and bring up all these things, and like, even if I'm not going to address them, they're going to like come to the surface and they're going to be there. You know, I'm going to have to be aware of things that maybe I want to avoid. Maybe I don't want to reflect, you know, because it can be kind of heavy, it can be kind of stressful. Or maybe I don't want to get into like a flow state of writing music and playing music because it can bring up some emotional thing that's kind of like a little bit more hidden. You know, anyone who's musical and you write music, you kind of know that. Like if you're writing poetry or just free writing or journaling or writing lyrics or, you know, playing music, your mind kind of goes to a place sometimes. Same thing with prayer, same thing with meditation, same thing with breathwork. Your mind can kind of go to this place. But I have noticed that it's the initial hump of that kind of like warm up. The warm up is the uncomfortable part. Usually, once I'm settled into it, I can deal with being there. And then I usually hit a wall at a certain point where it's like, okay, I need to take a break from it. But, you know, like it can be hard to tolerate at a certain point. Not like in a negative, like extreme way. Not like, oh, like I can't tolerate this, but I'm pushing past that limit. But it's almost like if you've ever run or gotten on an elliptical, you kind of realize that, right? The first couple minutes, the strides are a little stiff. There's a little bit of pain. Your muscles are kind of like, especially if you didn't stretch first, and you're like, I'm just gonna like jump on this thing and warm up my body. You're holding the handles and moving your arms back and forth, and like your legs, and your breathing gets a little more labored. But then you hit a point where it's no longer comfortable, or it's no longer uncomfortable, right? Or it might still be, but you do hit a point where your muscles aren't as tense. Your arms are a little more relaxed. Your breathing is a little more like, okay, it feels good now. But then you kind of hit a point where it's like, okay, I've reached my limit of that level of comfort where I'm enjoying it, and now it's like painful. And so that's kind of like your tolerance level, where it's like you've reached your tolerance level and you decide at that point, am I going to keep pushing and developing my lungs, developing my muscles, developing my strength, developing my stamina, or am I going to stop at this point? because this is my limit. So a lot of times you'll mentally make that decision. I think it's the same thing with prayer, the same thing with meditation. I experienced that as well with like writing music or playing music, or just kind of anything mindful, you know. But one thing that was interesting, I was talking to one of my friends, close friend of mine, who just finished a 100-mile race up in, I think, Oregon not that long ago. She did a 100-mile race in 31 minutes. I think the cutoff was 31 minutes, oh my gosh, 31 hours. I think the cutoff was 32 hours, and she did it in 31 hours. So she made the cutoff. And I'm thinking, okay, you're running overnight in the dark, on trails, and just her experience in general was not smooth. Like, the airport lost her bags, and so she had to end up, instead of spending time focused and like in a mindset of like, okay, I've got this race tomorrow, when she flew into town to do the race, she unfortunately had to spend time, you know, with friends and kind of running around, people kind of running around, you know, and the stress of having to get, I mean, imagine, you need sneakers, you need all your food, all your snacks, all your hydration, all your gear. I mean, you travel with gear. This isn't something you just do, like, I'm gonna bring a water bottle and like run for 100 miles. It's like, you have to prepare. So she had a whole bag with all the stuff she was gonna need for that 31 hours or more, you know, because you have to prep. You have to have the right clothes, you have to have the right everything. And she had to repurchase all of that stuff at REI and expensive places. You know, it's like, she's not from Oregon, you know, but I was kind of curious because I was like, how do people do those races? Because I'm like, in my mind, I would never want to even, at least at this point in my life, I would never want to sign up to do a race like that. I wouldn't want to sign up. Why would I want to sign up to run 100 miles? That's like from LA to San Diego. Why would I want to do that? I don't want to do that, you know? Why would I want to go LA to San Diego? You know, even the drive for me is rough. You know, it takes over 2 hours. The drive is even rough. Like, why would I want to run or even walk, but run, you know? And she was explaining, I was kind of like, where does your mind go when you're running? And she's like, yeah, I'm just thinking about how fun it's going to be and how beautiful the scenery is and how nice it is to be outside and how everything just looks amazing and the fresh air and all the, you know, say if you see like trees and bodies of water and how the trails are and the animals you run across. And I'm just thinking, like, none of that crossed my mind, you know? I would be thinking, this is such a chore, this is such a terrible decision. Why did I sign up for this thing? This is too much. And to be trying to like hit a certain time too. Because you can't just like do it and you know, and she was saying that some people were dropping off and stuff. And explaining how sore she was at the end. But super happy, you know, doesn't seem to have regrets about it, even with the whole difficult process that was added with the lost bag. It went, I think, to Atlanta or somewhere in Georgia, which is completely the wrong place. She was going from Texas to Oregon. Her bag ended up in this was maybe like 2 weeks ago or so. Her bag ended up in Atlanta. She just got her bag back, I think, just before the weekend. It's Tuesday right now. She got her bags back just before this past weekend that just passed. So it's too much. But yeah, I thought that was important, and it's gonna stick with me Because I was like, yeah, when there's stuff I have to do that I enjoy doing, I'm not thinking like, oh, like this is such a pain. This is such a, an irritating situation to be in. Like a lot of times I'm like, ooh, like I like the way this feels, like mentally, to kind of like learn something new or feel like I accomplished something or like be productive or just get into this like flow state of like creativity, and see what comes out the other end, like, you know, and open up my mind and see kind of what happens. I enjoy that. A lot of people don't, but everyone kind of has their thing that they kind of enjoy. It kind of gives you those dopamine bursts. It kind of gives you joy or puts your mindset in a positive place. And everyone, for the most part, kind of knows what those things are for themselves. Usually, those are our hobbies. We usually have hobbies that take us that route. Um, but when we don't, when we, yeah, we usually have hobbies that take us that route. But usually, when something is considered like a chore, like it's kind of like the label and kind of how we set our mindsets around things. There's this guy that I follow on YouTube who says that he doesn't really have like a lot of negativity in his thinking. He doesn't hold on to things. He doesn't sit around venting about things. Now I am not like that. My brain is like it will hold on to things, keep going back to them. Not necessarily in a chill way. Like sometimes it's like, okay, I'm remembering this negative situation, you know, from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago. So it's like, well, clearly I'm holding on to it, but I try to learn from it, and I'm like, why is my brain bringing up this random thing that I don't need to kind of pay attention to? And a lot of times I notice when I do get into a state of mind where there's all these like, negative thoughts flowing in, and I've posted on here when I've been in those times, it's like usually my sleep is off, my dieting is off, my exercise is off. I'm not doing any type of spiritual practice, or even if I am, that might be all I'm doing. But you can't really neglect, you have body, soul, mind, spirit, whatever you want to call it. You can't neglect one of those areas and expect to be feeling well. I mean, we could maybe go like what I call like a fasted period from something. Not like a 40-day fast necessarily, but like you could probably go, a few days without exercising and not feel too off, or a couple days without healthy food and not feel too off. But I'm saying like probably 2 to 3 days max. Three's probably pushing it. Maybe one day, maybe two, if you're already in like super good shape and you're already like feeling great. You could probably go 2 days of like bad habits before it's gonna really start affecting you. A lot of times, one day, honestly, you'll feel it, but 2 days is probably the max a person can push before they're gonna start noticing they're grumpier or more tense or just, more prone to making not so good healthy decisions. But it's all related, and that's why, I probably sound like I'm jumping all over the place with this topic, because I guess what I'm trying to say is, with breath work, yes, it's important, but if someone just decides to only do breath work, I don't think that's going to be as effective as trying to balance all the other stuff too. You can't just do like one thing. I can't just exercise but not sleep well, not eat well, not relax, not, make sure my mind is like focused on like positive things or around positive social situations. I can't just neglect things and just add one healthy decision and then expect to feel well. That's not very likely that it's going to happen that way. Now, adding one thing when you're doing nothing, that definitely might help. But adding one thing only and neglecting everything else isn't probably going to help as much. If you're doing something for your breath, which is going to help your mind, it's going to help your heart, it's going to help your blood cells, it's going to help your stress levels. It mentally, it might depend where you are. Mentally, emotionally, it might bring up some negative stuff. It might be complicated to kind of, have those emotions coming up because it is mindful. And some people, being mindful is something that, it takes some effort to build that tolerance. I don't know how long it takes. But the more you practice it, the easier it gets to get past that like warm-up period where it's like a struggle. And the more tolerance you'll have to kind of cope with, longer length of like practicing breathwork sessions and things. But it's definitely, like if you fall off of it for a long time, it still might take a bit to build that tolerance again. I don't know if I can recommend breath work to people or not. Like I feel for me it's a very good teacher. It kind of brings things to the surface and teaches me a lot about what I'm dealing with and what I'm going through. If I don't have time for it, that it helps me be aware that, hey, maybe I'm not managing the time, or maybe I need to take some things off my plate because I'm not able to like focus on my health. If I can't focus, there's probably a reason for that. If I can't, like even if I'm trying it and I'm not doing it well, because that's the thing. A lot of people want to like, oh, I want to sit here for say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the amount of time is. And like, I want to hit that goal and just do it. But a lot of times it's like people are afraid to even try because they feel like it's going to be difficult. And sometimes it's a matter of just putting in the effort to try and start. And even if you can't do good at it, you're still learning from the process of trying it. You're still seeing, oh, where did my mind go? Oh, I said I was going to set a timer. And when I went into my phone to set the timer, I spent 25 minutes scrolling Instagram and didn't even set the timer, therefore never even started the breath work, and I had intended to do that. That's a real thing, you know. Thinking along the lines of, getting past that warm-up hump. That's what I'm going to call it, because I don't really know what it's called, but that kind of warm-up period where you're just kind of like trying to settle in. I do this a lot if I'm trying to like pray or meditate or do something kind of more focused. Sometimes what I'll do, which is, procrastination, I'll be like, oh, let me light some incense. Oh, let me go like wash my face and get some water and, I'll start doing like little tasks. Let me like sweep this area and like make this area where the incense and candles are burning, make it look kind of nicer and like a little more tidy, and like put some stuff in some desk drawers and like let me clean off my desk, And it's like next thing I know, it's been like 10 minutes. That was one thing I really liked about learning about Muslim prayer times, like the 5 prayers a day. I really enjoyed learning about it because it helped me, realize, if I set a timer And I'm like, well, what am I actually doing instead of doing the prayer? Like, oh, I'm like moving around and like, let me go down the street and fill the gas tank. And like, I actually start doing little chores, so I have to like say, no, like this is the time that I'm gonna start doing this practice and not dive into like all these little chores that I need to do, like dusting the dresser and sweeping the floor or organizing something, you know. But one way to get things done is to try to do the task that you feel like you need to avoid. But that is also part of the practice. If I say I'm gonna do some breath work or do some kind of mindful activity, and then I'm doing something else, noticing what I'm doing, being aware of it, and being like, I'm uncomfortable. That's why I'm dusting off this dresser. I'm uncomfortable with the thought of sitting there with my thoughts in silence. Like, I haven't been quiet or silent all day. I live in a city. You've heard the sirens come by like twice during this episode. I live in a city. We've now got gardeners coming. I hear them already starting to work on one of the neighbors' yards. It's not quiet. I live on a highway. It's not quiet at all. It's been hot. We've been in a heat wave. I've had the window open for a while, a couple nights. I haven't really slept well because it's a little louder with the windows open, but I was like, well, I gotta sacrifice that little bit of loudness if I want, like, some fresh air, because we don't have central air anymore. We had heat that broke, and now we don't have AC. We never had AC. We had a fan that just blows warm air, so we don't turn it on. We have smaller fans for the rooms. I have a fan in my room in 2 windows, but I only keep one open, kind of for privacy. And I switch the curtains on the blinds on one window, the one that faces the backyard, because that window that faces the backyard also faces another part of the house. So if people are in that part of the house or in the yard, they can see into my window. And I kind of like my space, and I don't really want people looking at my windows. And, if I'm podcasting, I don't want people listening. Or if I'm working on something. Yeah, when I work on stuff, I kind of do talk myself through things. I'm one of those people that kind of like talks to myself. I don't do it when I'm like in public, like in the library or whatever, but like, yeah, I kind of talk myself through things. It kind of helps me focus a little bit, but I don't really like doing that. If the windows are open and people can hear me, it's kind of weird. So I tend to just keep the window shut, even though I could technically open it. But I put a blackout curtain just kind of draped over where you would officially fix a curtain. So I swapped the blinds, because these are the original blinds from when we moved in, when I was like, I don't know. I think we moved into this house in like the year 2000 or something like that. So 24 years ago, approximately, these blinds have been here, and the blinds that I have on the window that I do open, that's on the side of the house, I swapped it with the other blinds, because because they were kind of messed up, because I kept, reaching through they're Venetian blinds, and I was like, is it Venetian, the horizontal one? And I would reach through the curtains to slide the window open and close. Or the blinds, I'd reach through the blinds to slide the window open and close, and doing that for like 24 or so years, though it was just messed up. Like, the little threads that hold together both sides are kind of old and weak, and they started kind of breaking, and then the blinds had like parts that were dripping down, so when people walk past my window, they can like see inside. And I was kind of like, no, I don't really want that. So I swapped the blinds on one side of the room to blinds on the other side of the room. So now the ones that face the backyard area, the blinds on that window are very old. Well, they're both very old, but those are damaged. But I figured I'll put them over there because I already had a blackout curtain kind of draped in front of that window anyways, because the neighbors in our backyard have like motion sensor lights, and so it was always like all of a sudden bright lights coming in to those blinds, and it was kind of messing with my sleep a little bit, or messing with me falling asleep. And especially when my dad's at home, he kind of keeps the lights on outside. He might go outside at night, or he sits out on the patio out in the backyard, like right out in front of my window. People do that, and so I just keep that window closed. I mean, I guess if I needed to open it, I could open it. I probably might need to start opening it a little bit when I'm out of the house, just for some air to get in. But usually like when I'm out of my room, I leave the door open. Unless I'm out of the house, I'll leave my door closed. So when I'm out of my room and I'm just like maybe taking a shower or in another part of the house, I'll leave my door open just to let the air circulate with the fan and the window open while I'm out of my room. But yeah, that was a very long explanation, but yeah, it's a small room. I'm in the corner of the house. It's not a bad situation, but people pass by my windows, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't like that necessarily, and especially because it's so hot. I'm not always like fully clothed, and so yeah, we don't really need any weird incidents like that. But yeah, otherwise, I think one thing that can help people is if they try a new practice. It's about trying the practice and treating it as a practice. It doesn't have to be perfect. Of course we want to have a good session of whatever we're trying to do, but sometimes it's not going to happen that way. And sometimes it's more about trying and learning about what it is that was happening during the process of practicing, more so than getting it perfect. Because there's still information there, there's still valuable information. And okay, what am I doing to procrastinate? And like, if I realize I have all these little chores to do, like folding the laundry and dusting a dresser and tidying up certain areas of my room or other places in the house, it's like, well, that means I need to clean. I need to clean. I need to go clean the bathroom. I need to go clean certain areas. Because if I'm finding out that if I want to do some type of a mindful practice, but now all of a sudden I'm like, I need to clean, and I have stuff to actually clean, then it's like, well, I also need to clean. It's like, I might not have been so aware of what I need to clean until I start trying to do a mindful practice. And then I'm like, oh, I need to do that. I need to clean. Because it bothers me then, like when I'm like, well, it's hard to do a mindful practice when I know I've got all these like messy little situations going on. But I might not otherwise care. If I had never tried to do a mindful practice, I might otherwise have never cared that I need to dust, or I need to like clean the sink, or put the bathroom rugs in the washer, or, clean the toilet, or scrub the bathtub, or clean the bathroom, shower curtains, or whatever it may be. There's a list. I might feel that way. I might go about my whole day doing whatever I'm gonna do and never clean, but for some reason, when I want to do something mindful, all of a sudden my mind's like, no, you need to clean. And yeah, it is a procrastination technique, because it's like, okay, I'm more comfortable putting my energy into cleaning now all of a sudden, which is a weird thing, because usually if I'm just lounging and relaxing, I'm not trying to get up and clean. But if I'm like, well, let me actively do some type of mindful practice, and then, or mindfulness practice, now all of a sudden my mind's like, oh no, I'd rather clean. So to me, that's kind of weird, because I'm not one of those people who just like loves to clean like that too much. I like to have a clean space, but I don't necessarily enjoy cleaning. I've gotten more into cleaning, only because I'm part of a health group of people who, we're trying to like make sure our A1C levels are at a decent level. And so it's like it's a health group that my insurance connected me to, and it's really cool. I've been doing it since December of 2023, and we can count all kinds of activities that we do for that are like motion movement. So even things like yard work, cleaning the car, cleaning the garage, like anything where you're like folding, moving, washing, scrubbing, you can kind of count that towards, they call it activity time during your week, because not everybody's like exercising, working out at the gym, lifting weights, running, that kind of thing. But they count things like cleaning. So I've noticed since I've been in this group, I do clean a little bit more, because I can count it towards my my activity numbers in minutes that I'm gonna be submitting every Friday to the health group, or to the facilitator of the group. And so that motivates me to clean more. And it's kind of weird, like I've never had a lot of motivation toward cleaning, but that is something that has motivated me towards cleaning, as well as, using it as a procrastination and distraction technique from doing mindfulness activities. Now, cleaning can also be mindful. That's one thing that I've noticed is I can clean and not listen to a podcast or music or anything in the background. I have been able to do that, and I kind of enjoy it. But again, I have to get into a flow state with it and kind of flow into it. And then it just feels nice, to see that things are clean. And I could clean more. I definitely need to clean more. But I should be cleaning once a week. I probably clean about once every other week. Which, does lead to there being more to clean, but it's still manageable. And it's not too filthy. It's just, I feel like cleaning once a week is preventative more so, but cleaning once every other week, there's actually like something to clean. Like it's visibly, okay, like there's a little bit of griminess I need to kind of clean. I will recognize, I'm like, okay, I definitely need to sweep the floor, I definitely need to, it's usually like sweeping, dusting, and like cleaning the bathroom, and then stuff like folding my clothes and stuff. But during this heat wave kind of thing, it's really not that easy to try to clean. Like, I'm not trying to move around this house with no air conditioning. It's really not that easy. But yeah, I guess I went off topic from the main topic of breath work, but I think they're all kind of related in a lot of ways. Just those type of mindfulness practices. They can definitely tell us a lot about ourselves. It doesn't have to be like um, um, I don't know. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be something that we have to avoid. You know. But it's hard. It's hard. The busier we get, the easier it is to skip things. The easier it is to forget. Like I've had days where I've completely forgotten, like just wiped it from my routine schedule. Just certain things that I'm like, oh, I was supposed to be doing this. And I just completely have, like, there are days when I just don't think about it, you know? It just doesn't get into the schedule. It doesn't get into the day. And I'm like, wow, I was that busy that I just completely forgot, you know? Didn't even think about it. I wasn't even like necessarily avoiding it because I was thinking about it and decided not to do it. I just didn't even think about it at all. It never crossed my mind. Um, so things like that. But I'll see if I talk more on this topic. I may not. It depends if I listen to more of his videos and see where they go. Eliyahu Pereira. See kind of what happens with that. He's got content about all kinds of other stuff. And I'm not saying people need to like follow this guy or whatever. Like I don't know him. I'm just saying I liked the video. From what I listened to, I didn't listen to it all because I was nodding in and out of sleep. I'm drinking. I added to a chilled water bottle. I added a pack of emergency powder. It's got some vitamins in there, so kind of drinking that right now. But I gotta make this next post about this censorship and anti-Semitism topic. I didn't want to add it on here because I realized how long this might be if I just start rambling like I did. But yes, definitely thanks for listening. Hopefully you guys like this one. You guys seem to like the other topic about anti-Semitism, so I might start talking about that more, even though it scares me to try to talk about it because I've recently gotten some stuff banned. Not on this podcast, but in other places. But very shortly, I might start posting this podcast material on the YouTube. I think I've uploaded it all. I think it's just all private right now. I might make it public to share. It's going to be the same content at this moment. It's all the same thing that's on this channel, on the podcast. It's going to be audio. As far as I know, I don't think I'm going to be doing video. I've got another project that I'm doing that's got video, and just realizing how much time it's going to take to be getting into edits and everything. I don't have time to do video for multiple pods, and this one doesn't necessarily require video. It would just be me sitting there talking, so you can listen to that. You don't have to see me do it. And I don't feel like I want to take the extra time to prepare to be in front of the camera. So at this point, it's just getting the time and energy and topic to be able to even record, because as you can tell, I'm not recording very often. Or I do kind of record, and then sometimes I just don't post. Because I don't know what's been up with me as far as recording. I've definitely got a different relationship with recording. I was previously waking up super early to record, but it was just, I don't know, I stopped doing that pretty much once I started that job. It kind of shifted my schedule and my energy and everything, and I'm still kind of in the process of recovering from that job loss. I mean, it was a voluntary quit. It wasn't like a loss like that, but it was taking me a little bit to get over it. And I did tell myself that, you know, the 12th would be my 30-day mark. Well, technically it would be the 13th is my 30-day mark. The 13th of September is my 30-day mark out of this job. So, yeah. Yeah, the 13th is my 30-day mark. So, I guess because of that, I'm trying to take it easy. I did put into Uber Eats shifts this week, Sunday and Monday, but today my energy is telling me slow down. So I'm trying to pay attention to that too. And I do have a lot of stuff online I need to kind of work on that I can't do if I'm driving around town. So I'll see. I'll see. Kind of, this podcast I post a lot based on what I'm learning and what I'm experiencing. And so, I like to keep people informed about what I'm dealing with or what I'm observing and recognizing and becoming aware of, or even trying to challenge or think about or explore. So, the topics can be kind of all over the place, but yeah, I don't know. It's getting kind of loud outside too. I think someone's out there. I'm gonna shut my windows. But I've got to record that other episode, so let me do that. And with that, thanks for listening.